F1 has had many GOATs in the past. Most recently, we had Lewis Hamilton. However, are we transitioning into the era of a new GOAT? Keep watching to find out. Max has already won 2 titles by now. He and his team are going into 2023 strong as well. Despite the restricted wind tunnel time and all that, Red Bull has an amazing car. And from what it seems, the competitors, rather than making an amazing car, will spend most of their time playing catch-up. So it really is extremely possible that we're heading into an era where Max ends up dominating the sport. But a couple of wins isn't really what makes you a GOAT in this sport, now is it? There's a lot more. So the question is, can Max achieve this GOAT status? Is it possible? The Dutchman has already ended up breaking several F1 records so far. He also happens to be the sport's youngest driver, winner, and podium finisher. He really did end up breaking a lot of records last season. Max won 15 out of 22 races, which is really impressive. He surpassed the previous record of 13, which was shared by Seb and Schumacher. In the last 11 races, Max won a whopping 9 times. That's mighty impressive. At the same time, he scored the most points ever scored in the sport. And if that wasn't impressive, the difference between him and Charles was 146 points. Not impressed yet? Let's fix that. Lando Norris, who scored 7th place in the standings, had 122 points. So even if you combined the points of Charles and Lando, they wouldn't be able to catch up to Max. But that's not all. It seems as if records are going to be broken left and right. Verstappen is well on track to win the record for most championships and wins. He still has a long way to go, but he seems to be on the right track. As of right now, Max has won 35 races. Lewis has won 103. Max has 2 titles and Lewis has 7. So even if things work out perfectly, he won't break these records for another 5 years. But then there's another thing. In 2026, there's going to be a complete overhaul of F1 regulations. The power unit will be changed entirely. At the same time, Red Bull is thinking of making its own PU from that moment onwards. So that could really end up changing things. Just as the team lost dominance in the turbo hybrid era, they could end up losing dominance in the sustainable fuel era too. And while a lot of credit goes to Red Bull, they couldn't have done it without Honda. Honda made an engine that's fast, reliable, and extremely efficient, so that has a lot to do with the team's current form. If they start making their own, I don't think it's going to work out as well as this relationship has worked out. At the same time, Lewis was on track to win 10 titles too, but all of a sudden, things turned upside down. I wouldn't be surprised if the same ends up happening to Max and Red Bull. Do you guys hate math? Too bad. We're going to figure out the numbers to see if Max can actually be a GOAT. Max is 25 years old right now. Lewis's age right now. If he ever wants to eclipse Lewis, he'll need 5.3 wins per season, and he'll need to win 6 more championships. Wow. This doesn't sound so difficult now, does it? I mean, easy peasy. But given the sheer amount of hunger Max has, this is something that's very much possible. It would actually be pretty dumb to rule out that Max could be the next GOAT, because when Schumacher achieved all that, folks thought that he was untouchable. They never thought that someone could be coming out like this and break all of his records. And then Hamilton came in and did pretty darn well for himself. As of right now, Hamilton has only equaled the record of Schumacher in terms of championships, but he's extremely hungry to break it. But there's more that Max will need to break these records. It won't happen on a whim. What's that? That's how he ends up performing in the next seasons. Well, the reason why Max was flying this time around was simple. His car was amazing. The RB18 was just mind-blowingly good. Not only that, it even had the best power unit on the grid. And that's the reason why the team won all but 5 races in 2022. And this is exactly why the team is ready to fight for the title again in 2023. However, when talking about Max as a driver, there's no doubt that he too was just amazing. He barely made mistakes, and he was fast, very fast. At the same time, he ended up becoming really good at overtaking. Plus, on top of that, he seems to really have matured on the grid. But then again, as soon as he was racing wheel-to-wheel with Hamilton, he crashed, so maybe let's put a pin in that. Now, here's the thing. There have been only 4 drivers in the history of the sport that have won more than 2 titles in a row. This is his next challenge. This is what he needs to take on next. How to keep winning? What's the answer? Max is going to have to be consistent. Very consistent. He can't win 3 or 4 races in a row and then crash out in the rest. He's going to have to play it safe. If he wants to get even close to the records of Schumacher and Hamilton, he's gonna have to be smart about it. But looking at the last couple of seasons, it's safe to say that consistency is yet another thing that the Dutchman has been great at. At the same time, he's not the only one that's consistent. His entire team has been operating at a level that's close to perfect. It's like a well-oiled machine. With the backing of Red Bull, maybe Max can finally start rewriting history. But for how long? This is the toughest thing of all. But for how long? This is the toughest thing for all. No matter how good you are, you cannot escape the reality of time. Not one bit. As I've already said, Red Bull and Max will need to remain on top for a long, long time for Max to be considered the GOAT. But Max might not stay for that long. His current mega contract with the team ends in 2028. He has hinted that this could be his last contract in F1. Why? 2 reasons. A, he finds all this traveling quite tiring. And B, he wants to explore other forms of motorsport. Regardless of all of that, Max has gotten some advice on winning from his greatest rival. Lewis Hamilton has told Max that all this winning ends up making you complacent, so be careful about that. Could he be right? Well, at least the 37-year-old seems sure as heck that this is exactly why he couldn't perform in the last 2 seasons. Here, take a look at what he said. We had so many successes before that it felt a little empty. We won, but we had expected it. That's weird because it's actually such a great thing. It was therefore all to see how happy we were about the small stages. And it's all these wins that led to this debacle that's been it's all these wins that led to this debacle that's seen the 2022 season happen for Mercedes. However, they seem to be more motivated than ever to bounce back and give Red Bull a run for their money. Do you guys think Hamilton can win the next season? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you next time.